we've got a special guest now. Is Ben Kallos here? Where is he? Ben, why don't you come down? We've asked Ben to be relatively brief, but I've known Ben for several years. He's an attorney. He is also one of the most knowledgeable technology-oriented attorneys it's been my pleasure to know. He's worked with a lot of civic technology issues. He's sort of a pioneer. We are fortunate, I think, in New York to have him as a new member of the City Council and the chair of the Government Ops Committee. So I think New York is one of the few cities in the country and the world fortunate enough to have a city council person who actually knows technology, knows how to harness technology for civic value.
Can everybody hear me? Thank you. I'm Ben Kallos. That's at Ben Kallos on Twitter. I will be one of your first speakers who will actually be offended if you do not have your phones or laptops out and aren't live tweeting what we're saying. I'll be checking up there to make sure that it's getting out there into this Twitter sphere so that those who can't be here can also participate. I want to thank Jonathan Askin for having me here and for all that he has been doing. I'm a lawyer. I'm a free, Libre, and open source software developer. I'm former in-house counsel for a venture vehicle that ran a tech startup in California, and I'm one of your New York City Council members. I'm here to speak about hacking the law. By way of background, I run a small business. It has a $70 billion annual budget with 350,000 employees. It's the largest market force in the United States after the federal government, the New York State government, and the California government. So when you think about that, that is the power that we have to harness. I'm on day 94 on the job. I have 3 years, 8 months, and 26 days to go. Hack your time. Time is precious. Use your time to benefit as many people as possible as you can on this planet. When you do something small, make it reusable and scalable. You'll be able to use it again, and it may start small, but it can be big. I went to SUNY Buffalo Law School, and most of you may know who are lawyers. You're not actually really taught the law. You're taught how to think. And so I would say, hack law school. Learn how to think. Be agile. Be iterative. Test your learning in a safe environment. Get as much real-world experience as possible. Join Dr. Askin's Blip Clinic. And if you're already in practice, volunteer pro bono. It's a great place to test your theories. You've learned how to think. You've passed the bar. Now you're a lawyer. Lawyers are essentially logic and reasoning engines. Many of our tasks can be delegated to second-year associates, paralegals, secretaries, but more often than not, they can be delegated to software and automated. I was an ERISA litigation attorney. I had to deal with fact patterns involving 300 individuals and claims that were on a monthly basis over 6 years, compounding daily. The documents I filed were large and thousands of claims, hundreds of pages, and instead of spending 400, 800, 1,600 hours on a case, I was able to automate the entire process, and I was able to get through several dozen federal cases, several hundred state cases, several thousand civil cases in about 3 years of practice. In so doing, you can automate the parts of the job you hate and spend 80% and that which would usually take 80% of your time would be automated, and the 20% of the job that you should be making those big dollars for, you can focus on. It usually tends to be the part of the job you like the most, and you can spend 100% of your time on it. Learn the common language, not legalize, but the common language, even slang. Whether you're a developer, quant, or lawyer, using vocabulary no one else understands can be useful in sharing large quantities of information quickly, but to everyone else, it's a waste of time. Using plain language that anyone can understand is essential, and we need to do our part to help there. We're all governed by law, and yet no one knows it. Can anyone honestly say that they have memorized the US Constitution, the New York State Constitution, the New York City Charter? Anybody? So we're governed by these laws, and so in 2006 I launched wikilaw.org. It's since been merged with jurispedia.org. When Google launched its Scholar project, it was one of the last legal websites that really survived that, because what we were focused on wasn't on getting the law online per se, but actually making it understandable. So the first step of hacking the law is make it understandable. You can start by writing law journal articles to explain for your colleagues. Yes, fellow attorneys who are theoretically experts don't understand the law. We go to law journal articles, and if you are a subject matter expert, when attorneys are looking for somebody to hire, they will tend to try to hire somebody who has all the law journal publications on the issue that matters. It's very similar to how the open source community. You can also help laymen. You can write articles for Wikipedia, blogs, whatever you need to do in order to make the law more accessible to people, but it is the challenge that's forthcoming for our generation. Now, one of the reasons I'm here is to share that the law is not immutable. Just sit with that for a moment. So many people think the law is the law and it's not really changing and we're stuck with it. But we change the law every day. It is living and breathing. You don't need to go to the Supreme Court. Contracts are altering or waiving our rights under the law in exchange for consideration. The courts provide different interpretations of the law down to a county level. If you want to litigate a case in New York County, you may get a different outcome than in Brooklyn County. And then there's legislation, which is why I am here today. The first step in the right direction was in 1995, when Congress empowered the Library of Congress to create thomas.loc.gov, where they put the law online and legislation online for the first time. That wasn't too long ago. And now you can actually read and follow the legislative process. In 2007, we had the next step in the direction when Sunlight Foundation launched Open Congress, which is run by David Moore and Participatory Politics Foundation. And so for the first time, you could read, comment, and improve upon federal legislation. And so we started crowdsourcing it. But that really didn't help us on a very local level. In 2009, I launched openlegislation.org to get all of New York State's legislation and voting records online. And we did it so well that New York State and city legislators started doing it voluntarily. So here we are. It was myself, another developer, a team of two. We were able to create a Python scraper, get the law online, the legislation online. And it took us, I'd say, about 10 hours over 6 months. And so with that little investment, you can have a catastrophic change in culture in Albany and New York City politics. So hack the law, take it back. In 2013, Sunlight Foundation launched Open States. With my developer and the code that we gave them, they've gone nationwide. So now we've made 50 state legislatures transparent. In 2013, I ran for city council. I crowdsourced my platform at kallosforcouncil.com. I started with 100 solutions, and we got 33 solutions from the community. People could vote on them, they could comment on them, they could improve upon them. It's on a Drupal 6 installation that I created and maintain. We also posted our platform to github.com/kallosforcouncil so that people could change our platform and do it in a way that many in the open source community might be comfortable with. Now everything's been moved over to our government site, benkallos.com. It's a Drupal 6 build that I maintain myself. I won, and now I'm in the city council. We're adopting broad sweeping reforms for putting our legislation online in a way that allows members of the community like you to comment and improve upon. We're demanding that vendors open up their APIs that host legislation so that you can do whatever you want with it without having to use a scraper as an intermediary. Most of my colleagues in government are not lawyers. Many bills are not drafted by lawyers. Sadly, many bills are still drafted by lobbyists who also may not be lawyers. I'm here to empower you, to ask you, to demand that you join me in hacking the law. Treat it like source code that instead of running your computer or your office suite, runs your government. When you run into a roadblock, ask where it's coming from. 99% of the roadblocks I faced in the past 94 days have gone away when I've asked, why not? Is it in the Constitution? Is it a law? Is it regulation? Is it a policy? Because anything short of the United States Constitution or the New York State Constitution, that's not an impediment that a legislator should be facing, because I'm here to make laws. Truly disruptive companies like Uber have been taking on the laws, getting them changed. As far as I know, I'm one of the only developers elected to office, and we need to make sure that the centuries-old laws do not stifle innovation. But we need you to hack the law so we can govern together and improve it. If you have an idea, draft model legislation, share it, organize support for it, get a legislator to pick it up, or if you're in a jurisdiction that has referendum, get it on the ballot. I'm here just to say, hack the law. This government belongs to you.
Thanks, Ben. I got to say, Ben is a genuine pioneer in this regard, but I'd like to think that 5, 10 years from now, a lot more of our representatives will look more like Ben. Maybe not a white man, but they'll look more in temperament like Ben.
Diversity of background and interests and skills.